too.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of large districts are out this week.
So Leslie, what do you think? Shall we get started?
Sure, let's go for it.
So I have put the agenda in the chat for everybody. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation that we're going to have today. And we're really, we have kind of a rush of new people. So I'm going to give it just a moment to let these people join.
Morning, Margie. Hi, Ruth.
Morning.
Looks like we have one person who may be stuck a little. Oh, there we go. I was starting to worry about Stacy. She was a little stuck in Never Never Land.
That waiting room.
Yeah, it's like joining. Okay, so let's get started. I put the agenda there for you all. And we're going to start with welcome and introductions. And I'm hoping that maybe if you will just share your name and your position and whether or not you're going to be attending the Dual Enrollment Equity Conference in Bakersfield next month. So we can see who's going to be there so we can get together and meet in person. Shane, would you like to start?
Good morning, everybody. Shane Schmeichel, Director of Special Programs, Coronado Unified School District.
And will you be attending the conference in the Dual Enrollment? No. And so, Mia?
Good morning, everybody. Mia from Escondido, and I don't believe that we'll be going to the Dual Enrollment Equity Conference because I wasn't paying attention. I didn't realize it was happening.
Would you like to pass it to somebody?
Okay, I will pick Heidi. She's to my right.
Hi, I'm Heidi Bergener. I'm currently a principal in Coronado, but moving over to the K-12 Pathways coordinator for Southwestern College area and taking over Christine Jensen. But I'm just here to gather all the information I can, and I start officially in July. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet everyone.
Who would you like to pass it to?
I missed a little bit, but how about Margie?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Margie DeRouter. I'm with the San Diego County Office of Ed. I'm the coordinator with our College and Career Readiness team. And I'm not planning on attending the conference, and I don't believe anyone on our team is, but I can check back. And how about Annabelle, Dr. Luna?
Hello, everyone. I'm Annabelle Luna from Fallbrook Union High School District. I'm the Director of Student Services. And I will not be attending this one because I'm attending the one in September.
In La Jolla?
Yes. And I'll pass it on to Kathy. Did you already go?
Hi, I'm Kathy Singer, and I'm the Dual Enrollment Coordinator at Helix Charter High School. And I will be attending the conference in Bakersfield.
Excellent. Sean?
Hi, my name is Sean Hicks, and I am the Dean for Math, Natural Science, Exercise Science, and Wellness at Grossmont College. I'm also the liaison for dual enrollment with Helix High School, and I will not be attending the conference. And I will pass it on to Simone.
Thank you, Sean. Great to see you. My name is Simone McDaniels, and I'm one of the Guided Pathways regional coordinators from the foundation for California community colleges, and just want to thank Leslie so much for inviting us this morning. I think I actually will be at the Bakersfield conference, so I'm excited about that. I don't think I've been to Bakersfield, so but not much. So this is my chance. Thank you. Nice to meet you all. I'll pass it to Stacy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Simone's partner in crime here in the San Diego Imperial region as the other Guided Pathways Regional Coordinator. And I currently am not scheduled to go to this conference up at Bakersfield, though I am from Bakersfield. So in case anybody needs recommendations for where to go up there, let me know. It's always a good idea to get Basque food while you're in town, as it's a kind of a regional specialty. But I will pass it off to Cloris. Have you gone yet?
Thank you. I'm Cloris Johnson. I'm with the San Diego Community College District, and I'm the Program Support Lead in Career Education and Workforce Development. I will not be at the conference next month. And next, I'm trying to see, Ruth went or Heidi? Sorry.
I haven't gone.
Okay.
My name is Ruth, and I'm a business analyst at the Grossmont-Cuyamaca Community College District, and I will not be attending the conference, so I am looking at the one in September in La Jolla. And I'll pass it on to Shane. Have you gone?
How about Jason?
Oh.
Sorry, I'm keeping track of who hasn't gone, so it'll make it easier for everybody.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Martinez. I'm at Grossmont Middle College High School on Grossmont College's campus. I'm a school counselor, actually, and I'm also the project director of the grant. So thank you. Who has not gone yet?
I think Christine.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, Christine Johnson. I'm the K-12, K-16 director for the Border Region Talent Pipeline Grant. And I think you're talking about a conference up in up north, and I'm not going. I'm not going to any conference. So whatever conference it is, I'm not going. But I think someone just popped in, but I don't know who.
Yep, Monica.
Oh.
Hi, sorry. I was having problems with my
That's
computer.
okay, Monica. If you don't mind just introducing us to who you are. And we were actually just going around and if you're planning to attend the California Dual Enrollment Equity Conference in Bakersfield in early May, just let us know.
Okay. I'm Monica Blando. I'm from Grossmont College, and I've been doing the dual enrollment for a couple months. And as of right now, no.
Excellent. Yes, and we will always notify you all of other great happenings coming, especially the one going on here in San Diego and La Jolla in the fall, as a few folks have mentioned. So no worries if you're not making it up to the one in Bakersfield. There's lots of great dual enrollment happenings in our state, both near and far. So we will always let you know when things are happening. And I think that covered everybody. If I was doing an accurate job of taking my notes, everybody want it? All right, great. Go ahead, Mallory, back to you.
And so we will be, the thing that I think is interesting about the Bakersfield conference is that they are doing some amazing site visits. Bakersfield actually has one of the largest dual enrollment programs in the state. And so those of us that are attending and are doing site visits, I would love to talk about that in the community of practice and share back what you saw when you were there, and I will be there as well. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about today is our chancellor has come, our new chancellor has come and presented us with a challenge around dual enrollment. We're very fortunate that she is a huge supporter of dual enrollment. Governor Newsom's roadmap has some focused dual enrollment goals, increasing the percentage of students who graduate with 12 or more college units earned through dual enrollment by 15%, establishing pathways in in the fields that are the CCAP focus. And so essentially increasing CCAP and closing equity gaps in dual enrollment. One of the things that our new chancellor has been talking about is a 9th grade strategy. And that 9th grade strategy is that every incoming 9th grader will enroll in a college course, for example, a student development course. And they are saying that, she was saying that the class should be at the regular high school time with a high school teacher, and it becomes part of the default schedule. And that every 9th grade student, as a part of the course requirements, will develop a college education plan with at least 12 credits by the time they graduate. And so engaging with students early as part of a standard 9th grade class offering. And so the conversation that we had hoped to have today is to talk a little bit about that plan and what it means for us. And so the questions that we had for you, and we have a Jamboard for you, is what excites you about this strategy? And when we say the strategy, we mean starting in 9th grade with a sort of a counseling course that will help them help those students develop a plan, and then the 12 units prior to graduation. We also want to talk about what do you need to be able to support this strategy? And then finally, we wanted to ask you if you have any clarifying questions on any of this. And it's a fairly small group. We could stay in a large group and have the conversation. We could do a quick, like a short time to discuss in smaller groups, maybe groups of 2 or 3, give you 5 minutes to kind of talk about it in a smaller group and populate the Jamboard, and then come back and have a larger discussion. What kind of appeals to people? What sort of morning is it for all of you?
I like the big group option just because I like to hear what everybody has to say, and I don't want to miss out on what one school might be doing because it might get reported back, but that's just my opinion.
So in the absence of other opinions, I say we go with that. So I'm going to put the Jamboard here. I would really invite you to each add your thoughts here. Why don't we start with some general impressions? What excites you about this strategy when you hear that we're going to be focusing on our incoming 9th graders, and also that we have a goal of developing plans for students for 12 units prior to graduation?
I'm excited because it's going to force us to collaborate with our teachers and counselors on how we're going to market this, and pushing our students to see that they're capable and possible of taking a college course. And just the introduction of the process, I'm excited for. We're aware of some hurdles, but excited that, look, we're going to find a way to get you in there, whether or not you choose to continue after high school, but we're going to find a way to get you involved.
And
I just wanted to say the earlier the better, as far as turning kids on to college. And we see excellent transfer rates from students that are taking dual enrollment courses, moving on to college, to the 4-year, and especially to the 2-year that they've already taken courses from. So it's excellent that we're broadening this to try to include everyone.
I think it's important to expose students at a young age. I think sometimes we assume that children or students are hearing about college at home, and sometimes they're not. So we are exposing them, and it gives them the confidence to know that I can do this. my parents did expose me, but I can remember 9th through 11th grade. Nobody ever said anything about college to me. What are you doing after high school? They said nothing. I mean, there was absolutely no preparation at that time. And then when I went to another high school, they were preparing everyone. So I think it's important that we're doing this across the board, starting very early.
Margie?
Yeah, I think what excites me is that as we have a focus, I have a focus on a group of middle schools. I think as Sean said earlier, the better. I think it's exciting, the opportunity, how we start informing for that transition from 8th to 9th, where we can, help lay some foundation and some early exposure. So looking forward to that.
I really like that point, Margie. I was thinking about how you expose students to it as they enter into high school. You're exactly, you're spot on. And the other thing is, I've talked a lot about the fact that we need to normalize dual enrollment as part of every high schooler's experience, and I think this goes a long way to that. And so that's something that excites me. Annabelle, you have your hand up.
Not that I don't like to compare us to other countries because they have their own situations, who actually gets educated or not. But I do like that, because just thinking of my parents, even in Mexico, that what was high school there, you were preparing for a career for those that were able to go to high school, and that happens in other countries. Again, there's a whole equity issue over there, but thinking the kids thinking about, oh wait, I need the career pathways, because that's the shift that we're trying to do with our teachers. I get college, I get some kids that might do CT, but let's think of career pathways, and are we exposing them to what's out there? So I'm excited for that piece of shifting the conversation. Okay, let's expose them to what's available. And there's not just, you don't have to become doctors and lawyers. There's so many other roles within it that will help support, again, those fields. I think that's where I'm excited.
So many jobs. There are so many jobs. Any other things that you're excited about? So this is, I'm going to call it an audacious goal, and I mean that in the best possible way of thinking about it. But doesn't happen in a vacuum. So what, thinking both from the high school and the college perspective, do you need to be able to support this strategy? What do you need from your partners? What do you need from, think broad. Kathy, you raised your hand.
So this is something we were looking at a year ago, because we do have a class that all our freshmen take. It's kind of an induction to high school as well as an induction to college planning. And the idea was Grossmont College has a lot of 1-unit counseling classes. And we were looking at kind of enveloping one of those 1-unit classes into this class that already exists that 100% of our freshmen take. The difficulty we found is we don't have enough instructors eligible to teach the class. We have one of actually our department chair of that program is a Grossmont Cuyamaca College instructor for counseling, but then she'd have to pop in and out of all the classes. So I would like to hear how people want to make that work, because a 1-unit class is very difficult on a high school schedule to meet all semester. And then what do you do with the kids the rest of the time? So that's why we look to infuse it in a class we already take. So I'm excited about the plan. We think it would be a great idea. We definitely don't have an issue getting kids to take classes, and our students are averaging about 13 units upon graduation right now. So we're kind of there, but I like the idea of introducing freshmen to the program in a more structured manner than just the flyby presentations that we do. So I'm interested to hear how other schools might be looking to incorporate it, because I agree it should be a high school instructor for the freshmen. But how do you have enough high school instructors that are qualified to meet the min quals to be able to teach the course? That's what we struggled with, why we're not doing it this upcoming year.
I think teachers are finding faculty on either side is often a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge as we grow dual enrollment. And so with the minimum quals issue, that is typically going to be a counselor, and high school counselors do meet those minimum quals, but they are also very busy doing other things. And so the staffing model to support this, one of the things that concerns me is trying to expand the work that we're doing with the same number of staff. Like it's not an endless, you know, we need to staff appropriately to meet this goal. And that means, you know, growth of all of the supporting structures, and that's, you know, administrative as well as instructors and counselors and so forth. Are there other things that you need to be able to support these strategies? Like also, I'm wondering about what you need to help parents and students become aware, or what you need in terms of you know, like it's marketing materials, it's program supports, it's professional development. Those of you who created these grants, the dual enrollment opportunities grants, I'm wondering if any of the planning you did for that might need into answering this question.
Mallory, can you repeat the question?
The question is, what do you need to be able to support the strategy of 9th grade students taking a dual enrollment class and planning for students to take up to 12 units by the time they graduate?
One of the strategies that we had thought about when we had submitted the grant was assisting college staff to understand pedagogy. They're used to teaching grown-ups, but teaching kids, especially littles, is sometimes tricky. So what are some of the strategies that we can provide, because that's our business, to other staff members so that they're aware of like best practices and some of the equity levers that we use, so that way we're inclusive and supporting all students. So that was kind of like a biggie that we were trying to focus on. I think kind of parallel to what you were saying, but different. Yes, we need to inform our parents and our families about the opportunities in the community so they're aware of it, but also there's an understanding in the community college world of what dual enrollment or middle college or early college opportunities are, because I think there's a little bit of apprehension of like, I'm not a high school teacher, so I'm not going to teach high school kids. Understanding what those opportunities are so that they may be more interested in wanting to teach those. So those were kind of like the awareness and then preparation for it, some of ours.
Yeah, the how to, and I think that speaks to changing the culture on the college campus. And I think it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg problem. How do we raise up the experiences of dual enrollment instructors? Because it is a different sort of work. And I know a lot of dual enrollment instructors really love teaching that age group. And so like, how do we raise up those experiences and also create opportunities for them to support each other? I loved what you said about equity levers, and also about really reaching all students in an intentional way. Those two things both resonated for me. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak? I know sometimes it's hard to jump in, and so I want to make sure we create plenty of space for you to hop in with your thoughts. But remember, you can also put things on the Jamboard directly if that is your preferred mode.
And I'm just going to do a quick recap. Oh, sorry, Ruth, and I saw your hand. Let me do a quick recap because I think there are two people who jumped in like as we were doing the Jamboard and talking. So we quickly reviewed the new California Community Colleges Chancellor's vision for dual enrollment across the state. So Dr. Sonia Christian has a new initiative that it's very ambitious. It's to make sure that every ninth grader gets access to dual enrollment as a ninth grade student, and that every high school student can complete up to, or at least, I think, at least 12 units of dual enrollment credit by the time they finish high school. So I think a couple of you jumped in after we had already did that little preview, and then we were just using the Jamboard to discuss like what excites us about this new initiative and maybe what are some things that we all might need in the field as practitioners to support this strategy working in our region. So feel free to populate your ideas on that Jamboard and then take it away, Ruth.
I had a question. So for the 12 units, is it a vision to allow for 12 units of a CCAP pathway within their high school, or create something that's a combination of CCAP and like concurrent enrollment?
My understanding from hearing her speak about it is that it would be that the course, because just to remind people, when you create a CCAP pathway, it's a little different than a CTE pathway. It really means a series of courses that are intentionally designed to either move students forward in degrees for transfer, CTE degrees or certificates, high school graduation requirements, or college readiness. And so I think, and in a CCAP pathway, you could be doing maybe not all of these things, but you know, you could be creating, so you would say in the ninth grade year, they're going to take a counseling class in the first semester and a career exploration class in the second semester. And that's going to help them pick one of our 3 CTE pathways that also integrate dual enrollment, right? So you can see how it could grow like that. But the interesting pieces of this is that it was clearly CCAP because she said integrated into the school day and taught by high school teachers, and including making a plan. Now, if students are making a plan, that could be how to participate in a CCAP pathway. And it could be that those student plans are going to inform what is offered in a CCAP pathway, but it also could be connecting students to individual dual enrollment, in which case we would need to be talking about how do we support transportation, how do we support degree planning, that sort of thing. Amy, what do you think?
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I'm Amy Pimentel. I'm the Career Education Pathways Coordinator at Maricosta. Long name, long title. So I missed the overview, but so thanks for the recap summary, Leslie. And so when I came in, you all were talking about just the challenge with not having enough teachers who meet minimum quals or enough faculty who want to teach that age group. And really, I think that I don't know how or what, but you know me and my big dreams, Mallory, we need policy change. I mean, we all knew that when we got this new chancellor that she was going to be big on dual enrollment, just where she was coming from Bakersfield. But without policy change to adjust the minimum qualifications requirement, we are all set up for failure. K-12, colleges, and then, you know, that impacts the students. This is a great goal, but we can't do it without people. We have a K-12 teacher shortage in general, and then you put on this requirement that they have to have, you know, these certain degrees, even though they're trained to be teachers, but college faculty are not trained in teaching, but they have, you know, meet these. There needs to be, we need some policy change around that in order to make this happen. Because I mean, we hear that over and over again. Plus, our K-12 teachers get very nervous, and then there's issues around unions when we introduce dual enrollment because they feel then they're losing, out their students, their job security, or even if they are qualified to teach dual enrollment, it can, depending on the type of agreement that we're able to do with that district, they can end up not teaching the amount that they need that impacts their retirement. And so this is a real hindrance, and I don't know how we do that. If I had a magic wand. But yeah, something needs to be done around the teaching requirement and the qualifications.
This is something that really has been under discussion nationwide. The College in High School Alliance actually hosted 4 2-hour conversations on just this topic so that they could come out with a paper. And I went to all of the conversations hoping we would have just the conversation that you described, but it really focused more on providing high school teachers with funding to go back to school to meet the minimum quals. And the minimum quals vary from state to state. In many states, it's 18 units in a discipline as opposed to a degree. But that was the focus of those conversations. But I had hoped that there would be more conversation around equivalency, because I don't disagree. Kathy.
Sorry, I kind of now forgot where I was going. Oh, Ruth had talked about that. I wanted to respond to her question about concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment and the 12-unit max or goal. And I just want to say that when we were doing our data, we can't tell the difference on a college transcript if it's CCAP or non-CCAP. So I get that the chancellor's goal is for 9th graders and that push, but I think when we're talking about then graduating and how many units, it all kind of clumps together, because there's really not, at this point at least, a way for us to decipher whether the student was CCAP or concurrent enrollment to get those.
On the community college side, there are MIS indicators that would, but really, I think access to college credit in a meaningful way is really the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat the college in high school. This is the instructor capacity discussion that I just referenced. Maybe we should move on to our final question. What clarifying questions? And so I absolutely heard, does this include only CCAP or both or all forms of dual enrollment? I think that is a good clarifying question. What other clarifying questions do you have?
I have another question. Well, I guess my first one was a comment or soapbox moment. With the 12, every student graduate with 12 units, is credit by exam counted in that? Okay.
Specifically dual enrollment.
All right.
Mallory, is this a policy that's already gone out? Maybe I just missed it. Mandated for schools?
So they have, the chancellor is brand new, just started. And so she is going to, she had a, I would say a leadership meeting where she presented many of these ideas. And they're also going to be doing training sessions and be training the colleges on how to roll these out with their high school partners. And so this was the very first conversation. in a series of conversations and supports and trainings that will help us go deeper into this. Leslie, you were there as well. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'll
to
just
add?
mention part of the rollout of this strategy to get it started. She intends on meeting with college presidents across the state. At the time we heard from her last week, 2 college presidents were already on board, one from Long Beach, one from Bakersfield. No surprise. And the intent was for her to have conversations directly with CEOs over the next couple of months to gauge interest and ability, like their not just interest, but like, you know, can they do this? Can they meet this? Can they commit to this? I can tell you right now, there's already 1 meeting for our region on the books with the new chancellor. So I think the idea is, you know, she's knocking on doors, rolling out this new strategy, but then there's also, it's like a coupling of, like Mallory said, some regional trainings, some local trainings. I think the idea might be if she can find a college in each region who's amenable, they might start a small local kind of training, like Mallory said, with their K-12 partners, and then see how that goes and try to roll it out region wide so that they can learn from maybe that first college that said, yeah, we want to do this, we're committed. So there's definitely some good strategy behind it. Still a lot left to be determined. We'll always keep you updated as we know anything.
But we really appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us in thinking about it, because we also want to be ready to bring what we're hearing back as these conversations expand. And so we thought we'd give you a preview of where things are going. And I'm very excited for our new community college chancellor. I think that the work that she's done with Bakersfield, because she came from Bakersfield, really is, you know, it shows me that she's going to be super supportive of the work that we're doing in an intentional way.
Yeah, and I think back to that question someone had earlier about, is the CCAP or all forms? The Bakersfield model is not CCAP. So they have done an exceptional job at increasing accessibility for students to get dual enrollment credit, everything through not CCAP. So my hunch is that as long as it's intentional dual enrollment, it doesn't matter if it's CCAP or other. But it's got to be intentional, no more random acts of.
And AB 102 did make some changes that has made CCAP more possible for Bakersfield. And so I know that they are moving in that direction as well. But really collaboration is the key, right? The high schools and the colleges need to be working together in order to ensure that that we're creating opportunities for students. So and this was a very dynamic conversation, but now we have a second conversation. But this time we wanted to share with you some resources that came out from EdTrust West. Originally, some of you may have read these articles. You may have read the EdTrust West Jumpstart setting goals to drive equitable dual enrollment participation in California community colleges, but they've come out with a bunch of resources just in March. And so we wanted to share those resources with you and then have some conversations about how to leverage those resources. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in the so these are the resources that we're going to be talking about. But this is the website that I just shared with you. And we're going to focus on a couple of the resources, but they provided us with some infographics. And notice that the infographics are how does dual enrollment pave a smoother path to college for both Black students and then also for Latinx students? If you open this up, you can see that the infographic lays out in a really pretty way some of the data and some of the benefits of dual enrollment. You notice access, transfer, completion, and it lays out all of the research at the bottom. And then the second resource, there is What is Dual Enrollment? A brief guide for students and families. Now, we all know that dual enrollment is discussed differently in different parts of the country. The terminology is completely different, but this was developed for California. And reviewing it, I really like it because I think it captures what dual enrollment really means in a really clear way. And it's available in both Spanish and English, which again, I think is very beneficial. And you can see that it is in a Q&A format, and it's considered a brief guide for students and families. Both the Spanish and the English are here. So there's a one-pager in Spanish and then in English. And then we have two for leadership. We have expanding access recommendations for district leaders here, and then also a joint board resolution on equitable expansion. And so that is really more focused on leaders and what they can do. And so the conversation that we were hoping to have is to break into groups to really dig into these resources, and then to so there's the brief guide for students and families. That would be a parent and student focus group, the joint board resolution, and I'm going to also add on the recommendations for district leaders, because I think that's also really valuable. And so that would be for leadership. And then finally, we also have I'm sorry, I'm on East Coast time because I was in DC, and the time change is killing me. So we have the college focused, and then the infographics and how you can use those infographics to either explain to maybe instructors, or like, who could you use it with? How could you use it? What would it be good for? And so I'm going to create three breakout rooms, and you are going to choose your own room. And I'm going to name these rooms. I'm going to call one infographic. I'm going to call one DEFAQ. And then I'm going to call the last one leadership resources. And I would appreciate it if you would join the rooms. If you see that, I would love if we could get some people in every room. And I know that the parent FAQ, like, that might be the one that draws you first. But I also think that there's a good opportunity to have conversations on the other things. And so think about, I how do you feel about this resource? How can it be used? You know, is it useful? How can you share it? What is it missing? All of these sorts of things. And so why don't you pick a room? We'll give you 15 minutes. And we could potentially, we're a little bit ahead of time. We could potentially do 2 rounds if we do 15 minutes. And I'm
Everybody
gonna
have access to those resources. They're all linked in the agenda. So feel free to, scroll through a couple of those before you make your decision.
yeah, absolutely. We can take a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and also actually put these room 1. So that I added the room numbers so that you can access them from here. And again, that's in our agenda. So we have 1 person in the FAQs, 1 in Leader 2 in leadership, and nobody in the infographics yet.
Pretty good even distribution, I would say.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
There's not any particular group that's so low. Jocelyn, I know you just logged in, by the way. Hi. Oh, or maybe she just went to a room. Never mind. I was gonna give
Are
her
we
a
clicking
little-
on the Jamboard activity? Is that, I'm sorry,
Oh, that's
Oh,
okay.
I see the links to the different rooms, but is it the Jamboard that I'm clicking onto to go to the rooms?
No,
just
you're
breakout
gonna
room.
go under more. There's breakout rooms. And then you're gonna choose a breakout room.
On the agenda, which
No,
Right,
on
in your
Zoom.
Zoom. You see the breakout room option. When you open it, you should see an infographic room, a FAQ room for parents and students, and then a leadership resources room.
got it. And which one's light?
You know what? Infographic or parent student FAQ. Those each have 3.
I expect, oh, here comes everybody.
We were having such a rich discussion in that leadership room. We really wanted more time, but I don't think there was a way to communicate that to you, Mallory.
Well, we could do one of a couple of things. In the future, like pop into the room where I am and tell me. But we could continue that discussion here. It was also a very rich discussion in the FAQ room. Some great points. So maybe it would be better, instead of going back into rooms, to continue the discussion. And maybe we'll have your group report out last, because that may be the one that captures people's imagination. I'm wondering, in the infographic room, room 1, what kind of conversations were you having? What did you learn?
Well, we're having great discussions. We, talked about how just, looking at the data and how many fewer Black and Latinx students graduate A through G ready and their completion rates. And we like the information in those roadmaps, but some of the things that came up for us as we were just like getting into like the real juicy stuff. But the things that we were talking about were really that like we feel a lot of, especially Black and Latinx students are labeled, whether on their race or their group of friends, and they are not recruited. Those conversations are not being had with them or with their families about these opportunities. So it's not a deficit on them. It's not anything that's saying that they aren't capable, right, of achieving. It's our systems. And I'll take full ownership of this comment because I said this. So if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. But I feel like on the community college side, especially, so much of what we do is, quite frankly, reacting to the harm that the K-12 system has done to our Black and Latinx students. The fact that they are not as prepared and aren't completing at the same rate as their white peers is not, it's not a fault on them. It's the system that they've gone through. So we still have a lot of work to do, especially with, K-12 counselors, teachers, the administrators. They are the gatekeepers, but they can also be the gateway, the openers of empowering students, recruiting students, seeing the strengths that they have. If they're not showing up to class, but they're acing tests, well, that class might be boring and that kid needs to be challenged more and needs more opportunities. So instead of focusing on the fact that the kid's not showing up, what can you do for them? The infographics, they're good, but I would like to see like a more call to action, especially to K-12 practitioners. But that's because I just really want to shake things up and dismantle these systems that harm our students. So yeah, I don't know if my group members want to chime in or if they're like, oh my God, why did we tell you to talk, Amy? But that's what we were really getting into, and we were sharing our personal, what we've seen, and people sharing their personal experiences as well.
Boy, it seems like everybody was having great conversations. Anybody else from that group have anything else that they would like to share that came up during the discussion? It seems like Amy did a great job reporting back, but there may be other things that stood out for you.
I think Amy covered everything.
I agree.
So group 2, the FAQ for parents and the bilingual FAQ. Somebody in that room, would you like to, maybe Annabelle, would you share back what you were hearing?
Yes, so we were discussing the documents, how it's good information for the parents, it's useful, but just some looking at marketing. Ruth was sharing that they're looking at creating, they already create some information or videos or documents for the schools. They're trying to see how they can do a better job of marketing and working with the K-12 schools, seeing the need, so they do have that partnership. we did talk, like Mia mentioned, it has information, but it's considering what are other languages, and is this really getting at the concerns that some of our parents have? We talk about those are undocumented or they're migrants. They themselves, there's a trust issue of giving their information. So even though we're trying to enroll the students to inform them, how do we get them to understand that we're not going to harm them? We're actually here to help out, and we're not going to give any of that information. So easing the process for them, especially when it comes to even the application process, how can we make it a little bit easier and more flexible? The other part we're sharing is kind of the stories. If there was a chance to get stories from the actual families who had those concerns and the fear of enrolling their kid in a dual enrollment program, but sharing the process and what they learn, because sometimes the voice from parent and students might help us get the message across to others. So that was another one, and a lot of it has to do with relationships, to find those families that are willing to share the stories. And that was a piece we were also saying. It's yeah, just that voice, and how do we get that out there? Because it's one thing to provide the documents, but that outreach and having others that have gone through the process to help comfort and bridge that connection between the K-12 and the college. Did I miss anything else, ladies?
No, you did a really good job. So last but not least, our leadership group. And that was a really meaty couple of resources. If you haven't had a chance to look through those, I would really invite you to go back and read through them.
We went a little rogue, but I'll start off, but I'm going to turn it over to Octavio because he was bringing up some really good points. I think just when it comes to leadership, you know, the same that Dr. Christian is doing with community college leadership needs to be done with our K-12 leadership as well. We can't leave our superintendents in the dark about these strategies and these visions. We want to bring them along early and often. So as much as we can engage them, whether that's at the local joint board level, which some of our folks in the region are doing. They have those joint boards. Not everybody does, but that's a great strategy for something like this. And then, you know, on a regional level, we can have like convenings where we're bringing these kinds of leadership together. I like the idea of like, it's like a little bit of peer pressure, you know, it's like if they're doing X, Y, and Z, and they're figuring it out, like, hey, everybody else can try to figure it out too. So a little bit of peer pressure there, but we can't leave them out. We've got to remember to bring our superintendents along with a big vision like this, because dual enrollment is a marriage. It takes both sides. And then Octavio, you had some good points that we were getting into. Go ahead.
Sure. So I made the broad assumption that every college in California is doing dual enrollment, and that's actually not the case. So I asked for clarification on the initiative being put forth by the new chancellor, which is, you know, starting in the 9th grade, and then that high school students complete 12 units. And I made the unwitting statement of saying, isn't everybody already doing that? So how is this different, right? So as Leslie pointed out, no, not all community colleges are doing enrollment, and some of them put caps or limits on when the student can actually engage in that coursework. So I came from the San Jose Evergreen Community College District, where we did it in the 9th grade, 9, 10, 11, 12. We even did coursework with our middle school people in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Here at Southwestern, when I got here, I was surprised to learn that we only allow them to do it in 10th, 11th, and 12th. So I guess the initiative is really about more expansion and more widespread distribution of dual enrollment course offerings to students in K through 12. So that was part of the conversation. And then the last part was, how is Bakersfield so successful with their dual enrollment model? And is it because they hire high school instructors to teach their dual enrollment courses? So if that is the case, that's a completely different thing, because you're incentivizing that for high schools and high school instructors to teach those courses, because there's a financial benefit to it. Now, if you do it the other way, which is where you're using existing faculty at your college to go out to these high schools and teach these courses during the regular high school day, that's a completely different model as well. And it's sometimes very difficult to do that without infringing on that high school or infringing, we have unions, we have different people that have opinions about these types of things. So I just brought up that aspect. I was curious as to how the Bakersfield model was being utilized and whether it's, college driven or is it really high school driven. So that was
the strength of the Bakersfield model, and I'm going to be co-presenting with their dual enrollment person at CCCAOE. The strength of the Bakersfield model is really that they do it all. They have co-teaching, they have high school teachers, they have college teachers. They are figuring out ways to make it work, and they're always talking about it. And I think that really is the strength of the Bakersfield model. It isn't a one size fits all. They figure out what their partners need, and then they do that.
But Mallory, they've had that discussion, right? They've had that that discussion with their K through 12 partners, with their districts. So they're not at the infancy stage of saying, "Hey, this is an idea. Let's put this into motion." They've already made those agreements. They've made that, and I'm not talking about CCAP agreements. I'm talking about the agreement of the concept of the idea of saying, "Yes, we are going to roll it out this way," and what works. And I think from a leadership perspective, I think that's the most critical conversation that has to happen before we delve into all of the details that's associated with getting the parents' permission, getting the counselor's permission, all of those other details that we all struggle with. But yeah, my point well taken.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me of a good point that was happening quite frequently, I'd imagine, right before those grants were due to the CDE for the dual enrollment grants that were available up to last month. People, Octavia, were like kind of getting into all the nitty gritty details, like you're just saying, and kind of forgetting to have those conversations with leadership about what are we doing this for? What is our collective goal here? And I had a couple of pathway coordinators working with their LEAs about, wait a minute, let's back up a little bit. I know we're short on time because this is a really tight turnaround, but let's back up a little bit and talk about why are we doing this? What is this for? What is our collective goal as a partner with our, K-12 and community college together? And those are really important conversations to have. And sometimes the grants don't allow you all that time, but once funded, you can still continue to have those conversations and pivot where needed.
Well, we've all had experience with grants, and some people welcome those grant dollars as like, yay, this is good, we can do some good work. And other districts are like, I don't know if we have the infrastructure to support this grant. So you have variations with how people look at those types of grants. I mean, I think everybody likes money and everybody likes a shiny coin, but what comes along with it, sometimes not so much. So I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you.
Kind of going on what Octavia was talking about leadership. So with regards to faculty, Bakersfield seems to have figured things out with their union. Is that something from like the chancellor top-down conversation with the community colleges and their unions to give that flexibility, how Bakersfield has done it? And just wondering.
I have heard people both say, bring the unions in as early as possible. That tends to be the side that I am on. Or make sure you have ironed out all of the details before you tell the unions. Otherwise, it becomes a problem. But I do think that the temperament of unions, both at the community college and the high school, varies a lot. And I'm not sure of exactly what it's like in Bakersfield, but I am sure that they recognize their unions and spoke to the concerns. And I think that, the thing that I would like all of us to take away is to be sure that you recognize that there is some fear in the unions and to kind of work with that and really acknowledge it head on. And I would encourage, thinking strategically about how to engage with your unions, both at the high schools and the community colleges, because those conversations really do make or break our dual enrollment programs and what we're allowed to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest misnomer is that we're somehow going to replace high school instructors. High schools aren't going away. They're alive and well. They're not going away. dual enrollment is supposed to be an enhancement to existing instruction in the high school. But if it's not explained well, exactly what Mallory's saying, from the very beginning, boy, it can spin out of control, and there's a big wall of resistance that can build by saying, you know what, absolutely not, because we don't want to put our high school instructors on the sideline and have them replaced by college instructors coming in to teach these courses. So it's a real fear that we all live with, but I think explaining it from the very beginning makes a lot of sense, because trying to change it after the fact is incredibly difficult.
And I might be wrong because I don't read all the ed code, but Mallory, isn't there language in ed code that prohibits dual enrollment from displacing teachers? I feel like
Actually,
I've seen on something like that in the past, but I've never found like where it's spelled out.
What it actually says is that dual enrollment instructors, that you cannot displace either high school or community college instructors teaching the same course. Right, which is, when you start to look at it, and I think about this as we build and I've thought a lot about how to do more CTE. Only about maybe 10% of the dual enrollment in California is actually currently focused on career technical education. But I do think it's an opportunity to expand our CTE offerings to meet student needs. But when you create a new pathway, people who work in high schools, there's a limited number of pathways that you can have. And so I think that really understanding how you're serving students and what problem you're solving is the very, very first question. And then what do you need to do that? But it is displacement of instructors in the same course. So you can't replace a senior English, but it's not that it's not sections, it's that they aren't going to lose their jobs. So they can have smaller courses, they could have, a different number of sections, but that is also a leadership decision, right? What that looks like.
We come up with, our CTE teachers are concerned because they already feel like students won't complete their CTE pathway, not because they're not interested, not because they don't want to, but because they're being told by their high school counselors that if they want to get into college and be successful, they need to take all these AP classes. So then when we talk about introducing more CTE dual enrollment, our high school CTE teachers get even more apprehensive because it does feel like another competition for them, especially if they're not meeting the dual enrollment requirements. And then we've also had instances where teachers who teach AP feel like dual enrollment is a competition, they'll shut things down. We also have a challenge with space and like being able to run a dual enrollment class during the day and not having a classroom to do that.
Well, and master schedule, like just literally space in the schedule.
Yeah. So, yeah, space in the schedule and space, like
physical space.
physical, unless it's online. But so that's, I think, just all around, there's a lot of work to do with our counselors and around all of this.
The work we do is challenging for sure. And you're
not to, I hope it doesn't come off as me like putting counselors down, just recognizing where there's what we've seen and experienced and hearing from teachers and students, and data doesn't lie.
So we have a moment or two left. Does anybody have any final thoughts on any of these discussions? Are you going to take these resources back? Who are you going to share them with? I hope they were useful to you.
I guess I'm most intrigued by the resolution. Are there clear steps on that? How that will be implemented? Is it just Coalition of the Willing, or how's?
You mean the West Ed?
Yes, right. Yes, that one.
Well, you bring
the
up
joint board resolution.
You bring up a really good point. I think it is a starting point to start having a conversation with your leadership, but then it does go through a lot of eyes and a lot of people looking at it and talking about it, and how you move those sorts of board resolutions forward is, we talk about navigational capital. That's a special form of navigational capital for sure. Leslie, do you have any insight in that? Because I know we've looked at the articulation board policies. Any insights?
I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of a both and. It's coalition of the willing, but then I think there's definitely going to be room for, like, whether it's as a region to come together. And so that's kind of like what we did with articulation. We have a articulation credit by exam community of practice for college practitioners, and we raised up the administrative procedures and board policies that kind of oversee all the articulation credit by exam for the college and K-12 partnerships. And we kind of like highlighted some issues that you don't want to have these old relics sitting in your APs and BPs. And here's a template you can use to kind of like raise up your standards. And we did it region wide, and just left it up. I mean, it's a big deal to change your APs and BPs at any educational institution. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes months. But we basically said, if you're going to do it, here's what we recommend you do. And we could eventually do the same thing with dual enrollment, if we feel like, there's enough people. And that's, I think, again, that pressure, the ability to put pressure on each other, like nicely, gently, like, this is really working over here. This is definitely not working for anybody anymore. It's like, like the colleges used to do this like residency thing for articulation, where you had to be enrolled in the college for like 9 credits before you got your articulation credit transcripted. That's outdated practice, and nobody in our region does that anymore, thank goodness, but there are other colleges in the state. So if we start seeing things like that in board policy and administrative procedures for dual enrollment, we can bring a group together and help make, suggest changes.
I also think there's an opportunity. There's having things that don't service in board policy, but I think there's also an issue with things not being in board policy. And if it's in board policy, you can then point to it and say, well, our board policy says. And so I think there is some opportunity where board policy is light to really give it some teeth in the best possible way. So I'd like to turn it over to Leslie. Our last topic, we wanted to tell you a little bit about a community college dual enrollment RFA.
Yeah, I think I might have already mentioned, but for anybody who didn't hear it, so the regional consortium, using regional strong workforce funds from the colleges, is going to be issuing an RFA to the colleges to support their dual enrollment efforts. We mentioned it at the last meeting we had last month, and I think I might have overpromised and underdelivered that it was coming soon. We held back, and thank goodness we did, because we wanted to hear what Dr. Christian had to say about her dual enrollment vision. So we were able to add that in, and then our regional consortium chair should be sending that out in the coming weeks. So, but just as a heads up, the first year really is a chance to do an assessment of your dual enrollment programming, your data, and take a look at that kind of for the first year. So it's a smaller chunk of money for the first year, because it's really just an assessment time, and then to come out of that first year with a strategy to improve, enhance, grow, and then the coming years after that will be increased funding for the colleges. So,
and it definitely feeds into the data equity initiative that our chancellor is.
And we kind of have a menu of options for colleges to choose, like increasing the student populations that you're serving and focusing on student subgroups, doing more CTE dual enrollment. We added Dr. Christian's initiative of like increasing it to allow ninth grade students up to 12 units of credit, making sure that you're looking at county offices of education as well as traditional districts and charters. So we have like a menu of options that we are putting out there for them to consider after they look at their data. So all good things. So then coupled with the money that is coming out of the CDE, which I think, I don't know if Mallory, if you want to share any of the numbers. It sounds like they're not going to be able to distribute all that money. There might be around 2, but we don't know any details.
Yeah, it looks like up to 1,000. There was enough money to fully fund up to 1,000 proposals for CCAP, and up to 400 for the middle college, early college, and they received under 100, about 40% of the early college and middle college applications also included the CCAP, and they had just over 100 what was 565 or something. So just under 600 total applications. The point is that we will hear who is awarded, but they are not going to run out of funds in order to fund, the applications that meet the requirements that they are setting. And so I think that's good news, and there may be an opportunity later. They I wonder how they're going to give us opportunities to access the balance of that money. So keep thinking about what you could put into if you felt like the timeline was too short this time, keep thinking, start, whiteboarding what you would do, because there may be another opportunity. I am not promising that, but I think that's one of the things that could happen.
Yeah, it's something the CDE does with CTEG all the time. So if they don't distribute or allocate the funds the first round, they, within a pretty, short time frame, issue another round to help allocate the rest. So we're fingers crossed that the same thing will happen with these dual enrollment funds, because we would hate for it to be returned to the state.
Yes,
and not
we would like to
issued
keep
our
all the
teachers.
money.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. We will look forward to seeing you in May. I'll be circling back with whoever was at the conference to see if we can share out what we learned on our site visits, and have a great Wednesday.